Hey, what's going on, my friends, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to share with you 5 things I think you should know about this very positive and uplifting and also potent full moon we have on November 15th, 2024. This full moon is going to encourage you to expand way beyond the person and the identity you formerly thought yourself to be. All of us, you, me, everybody on this planet is so much more than they've been taught and led to believe. And this full moon is going to encourage you to step way outside of your comfort zone and maybe pursue things you would have maybe not considered in the past. And there's a lot of divine guidance essentially encouraging us to really finally step into our real power, our real potential, and therefore be able to enjoy a completely higher octave of like enjoyment and happiness and fulfillment in life as a result. So there's a lot more to it, and of course it's not as simple as that. There are challenges, there are different things we'll be discussing, but what I'll do now, my friends, is break this down into 5 more specific themes that are going to be more grounded and something you can really take into the next few days to hopefully get the most out of this wonderful full moon. Number 1, you might find yourself being called to level up. You might find your own genuine passions and desires and like intuitive guidance leading you into a circumstance that is very scary, that is very new, very unfamiliar, but you know it's the next step regardless. And you also might have a sense that it's going to benefit you and be good. There might be a sense that this next step in your journey, whatever it is for you, it could look like maybe a new career path or something along those lines for a lot of you. You might have a sense that this next step is really, it could be a big one for you. Not in the sense of like a big leap, but it could lead to big things. It could lead to really good things, spell very favorable outcomes. There might be this sense of like expansiveness. But because it's so unknown, because it's so unfamiliar, not like you, you might find yourself really just having a lot of emotion, like restless, sleep. You might find yourself just really nervous and anxious about the future, the unknown future, even though you sense it's positive. But I encourage you to go for it. Not just taking my advice, but really just follow your own intuition. Your intuition is going to be a very good ally, and we'll talk more about that later, but in this sort of type of energy. And if you rely on like your emotions, which might be just that of like fear and anxiety about the unknown, you'll be like most people. Most people let those very emotions hold them stagnant, and a lot of people could have way better lives, but they're just held down by fear. And it's not. People always ask me when I'm a coach, and people are constantly asking me, Vic, how do I step past the fear? How do I get over the fear? How do I get rid of the fear? And what I've learned is you don't. Anytime I've done anything new and pure and exciting and badass, there's been a wall, the perception of a wall of fear in front of it. What I've learned is I can step through that fear, no problem. The emotions are very strong sometimes, but not to the point where it cripples me if I don't choose to give it too much power. And a lot of people, what they like to do is they like to think about the fear. They like to analyze it and where is it coming from? Where's all this resistance? Instead of just saying, you know what, there's something I want and God damn it, I'm going to go for it. And just going for it. And then how that fear will melt away when you sort of demonstrate to yourself that you've had what it takes all along. What comes to mind is when I had my very first coaching client. My very first spiritual coaching client. I was a trainer, a personal trainer for a long time. So I had clients before, and I was a coach for a long time. But there came a time when I was earlier in my YouTube journey that I felt this strong sense I should be a coach. And at the time, as my channel still does pertain to, it's to help people who are going through a spiritual awakening. So I called myself an awakening coach. Not a guru, nothing like that, but I felt like I could be a guide for these people and to sort of share what I've learned along the way. But because that's sort of ambiguous and kind of, just vague, when it came time to actually getting on the phone with my very first client, I was really, really apprehensive. I had a lot of resistance, a lot of fear, a lot of concern that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not going to be able to help this person. They've already paid me money and they're going to be expecting a lot. What if I can't deliver? Oh my God. But you know what happened? I got on that call and I realized all of that emotional noise was for nothing, because in this setting, this is who I am. I was able to help these people fairly easily because it was just merely using my own experience and my own sort of intuition to help them and guide them. Also, what happened is when I got on the calls, after a couple of phone calls, I had like my psychic senses open up. I would have like new psychic senses. I'm not a super psychic guy or anything, but I was able to like read people way better than I ever thought I could. And I was able to kind of easily know what to say and know what, what's at the core of the matter and things like that. And I had these different like cues that kind of came online. Now, if I would have stood at the starting line, analyzing my fear, trying to find a way around it or something like that, I would have been there forever. But it was jumping into the new, jumping into the unknown through the fear. And then I was able to see, oh, wow, I got this. So I highly encourage you, my friends, don't be like most people. Most people are slaves to their fear, prisoners of their own mind. You do not have to be like that. And because of the full moon and just what's going on in the collective, the feelings of fear might be way stronger, way mightier seeming than usual, but it's still this smoke. It's a fog that's permeable. You can walk right through it, no problem. But only you can make that choice. Number 2, it's an opportunity and maybe even an obligation, similar to what I was saying, to go into the tension. Life is probably right now calling you, begging you to go into the tension. The tension for you could be an uncomfortable conversation where you set a boundary that is long overdue. It could be going into the new, as I kind of mentioned. And what I found is a lot of spiritual people, especially, they have a really negative connotation with the idea of tension. They see it as bad. But what comes to mind, going back to like my past a little bit, is when I first started to sell personal training. I felt this strong calling over 10 years ago, a long time ago, to start a personal training gym. I was a coach at the time. And I put all the last money I had into this nice gym. I leased a space, I painted the walls, I put equipment in it. And I found that nobody was coming. Nobody knew it existed. So eventually I realized, okay, I have to learn how to market. I have to get the name out there, right? And I did. And a whole bunch of people, I had hundreds of people who now knew about my gym and were coming in, and I was telling them about it. But I found not a single one of them was signing up. And sometimes it was quite unfortunate because I'd be sitting across from somebody who's in tears about their lack of health, their lack of fitness, they're self-conscious about their weight, and some of these people have like diabetes and their life depended on it. But I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know, and why? Because I didn't want to learn how to sell. I thought selling was bad. I associated selling with manipulation and like going into that kind of awkward tension where I'm convincing someone to buy. And I had all these negative beliefs about it. And what was happening is people who needed my services, who I know I could have helped, were not doing that. And I learned that I had to learn to sell. I had to learn to sort of embrace these awkward, tense moments, knowing it's for their own good. And then if you want to look at even beyond that might be a bit of a specific example, but working out. Working out is the epitome of tension. You're straining your muscles, you're straining your body, you're straining your mind. It's uncomfortable, it's not fun, but what's the result of that? Stronger muscles, a leaner physique, healthier body, more energy, more clarity, more empowerment. So I go in the cold plunge every single morning. It sucks. I never want to do it. It's like 41 degrees. I sit in there for like a minute or two, and you know what? I feel amazing afterwards. Tension is not bad. And what happens, going back to the analogy of like awkward conversation, what happens when you avoid the tension? Resentment builds up. And often the truth will come to a head anyways, but if it's been avoided and danced around, it's going to be a lot nastier than it would have been if it would have been addressed in the moment as well. So this is a good time to really stop tiptoeing around your thoughts on life, really voicing your opinion, really doing the things you want to do in life, and not letting the fear and not letting the tension stop you, knowing oftentimes, again, the tension is actually a very positive thing. Number 3, I was going to talk about first, so the order might be a little wonky, but so it's going to seem a little out of left field. It's saying no to manifestations of your old patterns. A lot of times we kind of create our reality not based on what we think we want, not even based on what we consciously want, but based on what we subconsciously believe to be true about life, about ourselves, about what we deserve. And right now is kind of an interesting time where you might find yourself manifesting people, manifesting situations, just kind of coming into your life that are very, very reminiscent to energies you've been maybe dealing with your whole life. Maybe something back all the way into early childhood, archetypes that represent like your parents, or anywhere that there's like work that needs to be done, or old patterns, you might start to see that. In fact, I had this with a coach, a jiu-jitsu coach, where he reminded me so much of another person I used to work with, another person I knew who had like the exact same temperament, exact same personality. And at the time, back then, I kind of put up with it. I just sort of accepted that's the best I can do. But I'm finding myself now realizing I don't have to choose this. I don't have to choose this. This is not of my preference. And now I have the self-respect and the self-love enough to say no to it. So it can seem like we are fated to repeat the past sometimes, but after all, you and I are free to do as we please in each and every moment. And this full moon might give you just enough perspective to realize that you don't have to be in this relationship. You don't have to be in this job. You don't have to live where you live. You don't have to wear the clothes you're wearing. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And this full moon is very empowering, and it might help you finally start to realize that. And right now is a time of positive change. A lot of time, at least in my experience, like my spiritual awakening journey is that of becoming aware of things that I was not aware of parts of myself that need tending to, need work, need releasing, need healing, etc. Parts of my life that don't resonate, that need to be kind of adjusted. It can be kind of an uncomfortable, there's a lot of it spent in like a contraction period where you're going inward and you're doing the shadow work. But once in a while we are blessed with times where all of that effort starts to finally like ripple out and pay off. And we have this kind of exhilarating expansion effect, metaphorically, also in like how we feel, and also in our life, where things just start clicking into place and opportunities start coming out of left field, and like your whole reality starts to kind of reflect all the work you've done. I'm finding this even with like TV shows. There's a couple of TV shows I've been really wanting to see, and now they're back on, like Yellowstone, and there's just all of these amazing things like coming into life that are fun on like a smaller scale, like little things like that. Finding the right yoga studio, finding the right jiu-jitsu gym, finding the right whatever, but also in your business, also in your life, also in your relationships. And right now, people might be not feeling that exactly, but I recommend just to keep holding the faith, because that is always the result. And these contraction periods, again, they can last so long sometimes that you forget that there is a payoff. You forget that why you're doing it. But this is a full moon that I suspect a lot of us will have our moment of triumph, our moment of recognition of just how much we've grown, just how much we've healed, just how far we've come. And that is the real prize. It's not that Yellowstone's finally coming back to TV. It's not that you've, made more money or whatever. It's that you get to like look in the mirror and be not only proud of, but sort of surprised at the person you blossomed into. And that is the real treasure of this time. And number 5 is very simply divine guidance, a heightened awareness of just how guided and just how supported you are. What comes to mind is a few years ago, I was asked to give this talk during a San Pedro ceremony that we were running this like plant medicine retreat in Costa Rica mean, there's ayahuasca, then San Pedro. It's like a cactus medicine, kind of like peyote. It's an all-day ceremony, very long-lasting medicine. And the person running it, not me, I'm not a shaman or anything, he asked that I give a talk. And he said he wanted to hear from somebody who had wisdom. And I was like, oh God, a tall order there. And then I had to roll up this tobacco, not cigarette, this tobacco thing in a banana leaf or something. And I had to smoke it and give this talk to probably 40 or 50 people while on the San Pedro. And it was much later in the day. And he told me about it in the morning. So consequently, I went through the entire 12 hours leading up to it on the San Pedro medicine, just thinking, what am I going to talk about? I felt so unworthy of the position to give this talk. And I was aware that I was obsessing about it. I could not stop thinking about it. And the more I thought about it, the more I planned, the more disconnected from myself I felt, the worse my ideas became. And it was just this mental momentum of stress and worry and concern and projection. And it was making me so off kilter. And as the time got closer and closer to do the talk, I was getting worse and worse. And I was losing my freaking mind. I was really, it was all intensified too because of the San Pedro. And then finally, this very crazy string of events happened. The first thing is I was at one point, 8 hours in, I'm just laying there on a mat, staring up at this maloka, just feeling defeated. I had given up on myself. I was okay, this talk is just going to be bad. You have nothing to say. Your mind is blank. And I was just surrendering to it. And then Aaron Dowdy, he was there as well. He was going around and giving people these honey drops, which sounds kind of weird. It's this honey you put in your eye and it burns, but it's cleansing, and there's a reason people do it. I forgot the name of it. Mariola, I think it is. And he comes by, he's just he's come down to where I'm laying. He's like, hey bro, you want some honey drops? I was like, yeah, what the hell? I know we don't like doing that because it burns, but I said, okay, I could use it. And he put the honey drops in, and it stung, and it's kind of gloppy in your eyes. It's kind of this bizarre experience. And I realized that, nice, I needed that. I felt a lot better. And then my wife, she kind of saw the engagements, and she came over and gave me a blast of Hapé. It's like a tobacco snuff. A lot of medicines we do in Costa Rica. And I normally don't do that, but it was and my eyes were burning, and I felt more grounded. I felt better. And then these shaman helpers came by, and they pulled me aside, and they kind of taught me how to roll up this banana leaf tobacco thing. And they explained how you put the tobacco in, and you say a prayer, and you ask the tobacco for assistance. And they told me how to tie it. And it was this whole kind of ritual. It's kind of really neat, actually. And I felt, and they were almost aware that I had this talk to give, and they're just kind of helping me. It felt like. So I felt better. I had my little tobacco leaf, I had my Hapé, I had my honey. I was feeling good, feeling better. And I went and I sat down, and I'm like, okay, maybe I can do this. And then we had these musicians that would play kind of off and on throughout the day. This one woman with this beautiful voice started singing this song all about synchronicity, all about divine guidance. And it was you can just trust the moment, you can just trust life. That was the vibe. And it was singing right to me. And I was getting elevated into this sort of sense of faith. And then finally, this big dude that was at the retreat, one of our guests named Riley, real big muscular dude. He kind of walked around the circle and came up to me and demanded I give him a hug, and he just wanted to thank me for helping put on the retreat. And he gave me this big hug. I remember it was a very aggressive almost hug, but it was with love. He kind of lifted me up like this too. And I just saw in his eyes just how genuinely appreciative he was. And it was very touching to me. So anyway, all these different things happened, and I found myself feeling just blissed out in the flow, man. And then it was my turn to talk. The timing was perfect. And I gave one of my best talks I've ever given. In fact, I shared all about what I just talked to you about. I shared exactly about what had happened, about what was going on, and why it's smart to have faith and to trust the moment. And anyway, this little experience of synchronicity was there to guide me for just a little talk. Imagine you, when you finally step into the tension, when you finally allow yourself to test yourself in the unknown, following your intuition, How much divine support do you suspect you will have? A lot. I can speculate. It'll be a lot, my friend. And this full moon can finally help you start to see just how guided, how supported you are. How many ancestors you have watching over you, spirit guides, deceased loved ones, grandparents. They're all there. They're all there probably hovering above you right this second, ready to help you, ready to guide you, ready to nudge you whenever the time is needed. And this full moon is going to finally help illuminate that, allowing you to actually trust. And with trust, you can do anything. With that said, thank you for watching, my friends. I will see you next time. You have an amazing day. Much love.